Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Pits Motor Chaos. It's your host, Dave. I got online special guest from the Chicago Wise Guys, blown off promo driver, Tommy Dwyer. How's it going, Tom?
Good, Dave. Good.
So how you doing on this snowy day?
Oh, well, I'm still bundled up from this morning. I got to go back and clean the driveway out some more. I just cleaned it out enough to get out to go to work.
Did you get a lot up by you?
Yeah, probably, I don't know, it's got to be over a foot, but the drifting was what was holding the driveway up for the most part. Yeah, well cleaned up for the most part. Just got to do some final touch-ups and stuff like that.
All right, well, the big question here probably is from everybody, are you going to be out there this year with that Pro Mod?
Well, I plan to. First thing we got to do is get the thing painted. Right now it's over in the paint shop with Lonnie Morgan. Once that gets done, it'll get pulled back to my shop and bolt it all back together as long as I can find all the pieces that's been apart for, a couple of years now. And I should know where they all are. But I've moved a lot of stuff around since I took it apart. I went from my two-car garage out to the shop that I built, which is basically taking up most of my, if not all my life lately. But I have those parts spread around a little bit, but I should be able to find them all and pull it back together.
Yeah, we missed seeing you out there last year with the Wise Guys.
Yeah, and I miss it myself too. It's been a while. It's been almost going to be 2 years, well, 2.5 years actually now, because I think I stopped running in August of 16, and and I was going to take 17 off a little bit to help Rick Saxel out, and then of course he passed on and everything, and so that I kept busy working on this building I had so I could work on the car, and that's pretty much been taking up all my time lately.
Yeah. So this year's the 25th anniversary of the Chicago Wise Guys. So Pete Demos, yeah. I got to give Pete Demos, a big hats off. 25 years, wow.
I tell you what, that guy puts his heart and soul in the thing. You might think he's kind of gruff and everything, but he's got a soft underbelly. He's a good guy. He really is, and he works hard at keeping all that whole program together. Getting all the races going, getting the people there, keeping them all connected. The banquet at the beginning of the years, he works his butt off for all that. The whole point system, everything. And if it wasn't for him, I would say the Wise Guys wouldn't be the Wise Guys for sure. Yeah.
That his number one key issue is safety for you guys, and he does a great job keeping you guys safe. I have to say.
I sure does. Yeah.
And I was reading on the Wise Guys page. They posted yesterday saying the 25th anniversary. You never know. Maybe you get some old drivers come back, or you got some new drivers come in. And we'll have to see what happens for the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, that'd be great. There's been a lot of great racers that have come and gone, and some folks are coming back with different things. Like Chuck Leck. I'm really excited about his new project, and I want to see that thing. I want to see that thing run. He's one of the few guys in the club that have a screw charger on there, and so I kind of lean toward those guys a little bit. Sorry about everybody else with the nitrous and the Rich Blowers, and JR, our pro charger man. Hopefully somebody else. Well, we got a couple other guys actually with full chargers now that are on the team. But anyhow, all the different cars, whether they're normally aspirated or they have some kind of power add on it. It's great. It's great to have them and all the diversity, and that's what's great about the Wise Guys too, is because there is so much diversity in there. It's basically run what you brung and hope you brought enough, and as long as you have all safety stuff with it. These guys really run good and really run hard. I just can't say anything bad about the group. I mean, all I can say is great stuff. I think it's a fantastic group to be part of.
Yeah, and there's, like you said, all the diversity of cars there, and all the cars are beautiful. Like Bud Dennis Jimenez car, the beautiful blown lock Pro Mod.
Yeah, the best. Yeah, that's a nice car.
And my wife's favorite car, because my wife's favorite colors are black and purple. She likes G. Neesmith's Nova. You know G. Neesmith's black and purple Nova, right?
I'm sorry. Oh, Neesmith.
Yeah.
Oh, Jeans, yeah.
Yeah, my wife loves that one because her favorite colors are black and purple.
Well, yeah, and Jeans cars is pretty unique, too, because, you know, it's got a stock shell on it, you know, steel shell. It's one of the very few cars that are out there that are, you know, part of a real car. You know, the cars that are running the sixes and such, you know, and that car's really got a lot of potential. And Gene's had that for a long time. You know, I don't know if he's had that since he's been a teenager or not, but he's definitely had it for a long time, and he's done great things with that. And I think that car's still got a lot of potential left in it that he hasn't tapped. So I expect some exciting things to come out from those guys.
Yeah, he's getting that car dialed in pretty good now.
Yeah, it really is.
So is Alex Kusha with his Devil's Dust. He's getting that car tuned in. He's just still short of 200 miles per hour, though. He made 199 last year, but he's going to hit that 200-mile mark.
Oh, he's going to get it. Those guys will keep tweaking on that thing.
Yeah, that's a great family, the Kusha family.
Yeah, sure.
So now, for you to come back out of Wise Guy, are you going to do any other events too besides the Wise Guys if you come back out racing?
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to run the local NMCA event down in Joliet. I'd like to do some more of them if I could, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do it at least this year. I think it's going to be a scramble to get the car together in time. So I don't know which race in the Wise Guys I'm actually going to make it back for first, but I'd like to do at least the Super Bowl drag racing for the NMCA deal. I'd like to go out to Cordova. I've never run out there and been there, obviously, but I've never run a car out there. And I'd also like to maybe try the Midwest Pro Mod deal down in St. Louis if I can. That might be kind of aggressive for what I can do for this year, but those are things I'd like to do. And then I know Lonnie Morgan, that is, he really wants to go back to Bradenton probably next January, maybe for the U.S. Street Nationals, and then also for maybe the NMCA deal that they have at the beginning of March. U.S. Street Nationals are coming on this coming week down there in Bradenton, and that's a great place. I wish I could grab all the Wise Guys and we could all go down there, and everybody could run their cars through their paces, and that way they'd all have their cars ready for our first event up at the Grove.
Yeah.
Be all ready to roll, you know. But the logistics and money and all that stuff, sometimes something like that happen. But it's great to get out of the snow and the cold and everything for a little bit and go down that way. But anyhow, for the rest of those events this year, those are the ones I'm kind of looking at a little bit if I can. Just something that's close, but then also, the Wise Guys event that we can make it to. As soon as we can make it, the first one, then we should be able to make the rest of it. And maybe if it doesn't get rained out this year, the World Standing Championship out in Byron again for the Top Dog stuff.
Yeah, I know. Bud Dennis is looking to try to make it out to Florida before the Wise Guys start up.
Oh, that'd be great if you could. Yeah, a little bit of testing and tuning. And that track is actually pretty good down there. It's a little goofy at that where you do your burnout because it's kind of sloped on the side to let the water run off, and you gotta kind of start your burnouts from the center and go out depending on the lanes. It's really kind of interesting when you go to different tracks around the country than what you see. But the track itself is good, and the prep that those guys do down there is really good too. And that most of the cars that are running down there, they're quicker than most of our cars that we run the Wise Guys now. They weren't in the past, but for the Street Nationals are, and so they prep pretty good down there because of all that.
Then, of course, the first big Wise Guys event will be the Memorial Day weekend at Great Lakes Dragway.
Oh yeah. That's always the best one, and Saturday's the best day of that best event. I don't know why that is like that, but I think it's because everybody's tucked in for the winter. But that's a great event for everybody to go to.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question, Tom. How did it all begin for you to get into drag racing?
Well, it was quite a while ago, actually. I know the first drag race I went to, I was 15. And the reason I know that is I had a bum ride with another friend of mine who was still 15, with a friend of ours that was a year older than us. And he took us up to the Grove. And I was thinking it was an AHR event. It might have been an IHRA event, but it had to have been in 76. What was interesting about that event was it. I mean, they had every big name that you've heard from the past. You know, Garros and the Bounty, and the Snake, and all those guys. They were all running there, and we sat there. And we sat there all day, and I think it was on a Friday or Saturday. I forget exactly, but we watched all the qualifying. And the qualifying was pretty fantastic. It was sort of like watching Pro Mod and ADRL days when everybody was all over the track, and you didn't ever know what was going to happen. These things were blowing things up. This was before they had, all the safety devices, and blowers were flying in there, clutches were blowing up, and all kinds of stuff. And we made it through the whole qualifying set for both, Top Fuel, Funny Car, Pro Stock, and all the other stuff. And then it rained. And what was great about it is we got a rain check, and we came back the next weekend and watched the same stuff all over again in the whole event, and that hooked me. I just thought it was great. I would hear, Top Fuel cars going down the track, and I came home, and I can remember telling my mom, I said, man, that car was so loud, it drowned itself out. It was so loud. It just went through your whole body. And that's what kind of got me hooked on that, and kind of being mechanically inclined a little bit. Sometimes I don't do so great on some things, but anyhow, I like working on mechanical things, and marrying up that with the drag racing really worked out good.
Yeah, Broadway Bob, he was a great promoter and used to bring some awesome cars into that track.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a really fun time.
So what year did you actually start drag racing?
It probably was, what would that be? Probably 78. Because I remember I had, my first car that I bought was my first real car. I bought a junker for $25, a 64 Impala, 4-door, would have been a great rat rod right now and everything. But my first real car I bought was a 68 SS396 Chevelle for $500. As a matter of fact, it had the 396, a 4-speed, and a 10-bolt at that time. But what I ended up doing was, I ran it for about a year. So probably half a year after I bought that car, I bought a 70 SS396 that was at a local dealership for the big sum of, I think it was like $1,300. It was green with white stripes. It was a full SS. It was a real deal and everything. And anyhow, I put a tunnel ram on that, had the 4-speed in it. I think I had a 488 gear in it, and I ran it to Grove for the first time. We actually drove it out to Byron. I had a 74 Impala with an open trailer that I borrowed from somebody. We drove it out to Byron to run it. First time out there, and it snowed. And they closed the track, so we drove all the way from Byron over to Grove. It was like 30 degrees out. And anyhow, I ran the car up there, and I ran 1169 with the car. I can't remember what the mile an hour was at the time, but I was so tickled that it ran in the 11s. I was 17 years old. That's rolling it through the gears with a 4-speed. I thought I was in heaven, to be honest with you. It was great.
So how long did you run that car for?
I ran that until 1980, and I ran it to a point where I went in the Navy at that time, and I came back on leave, and I spun a bearing out of Byron. It spun a bearing, and at that point I decided to make it into a race car, and what I ended up doing was I cut the whole floor out of it, being naive enough to think I could actually build a whole race car easily. And make a long story short, I ended up trading the body. At that time, it had 22 coats of candy apple blue on it. It really looked nice. I really messed up, to be honest with you. I wish I would have had that car today, but I ended up trading it for a snowmobile. But at the same time, that I did that, right after that, I moved on to a 71 Chevelle. After I got done with all my schooling, I went to Norfolk, Virginia for a month for schooling. I bought a 71 Chevelle. At that time, I had my a Granada, 75 Granada, I think it was, that I drove out to Norfolk, and I drove back in the Chevelle. And on the way back, when I stopped at home, I put some mags on it, some air shocks, drove out to California, and eventually that car, to condense, quite a few years, ran 780s with it. It was a backhand car after I got done with it. I mean, it was a stock car when I originally got it, but it was starting to get a little scary, to be honest with you. It would run the 820s really easily, but when it started to get into sevens, it was a monster to maintain and to hold on to, actually.
So with that car, what was the fastest you went with that car?
It ran a 786 with that. And I can't remember the mile an hour. I don't have it right off the top of my head. But that was a 2x3 back half chassis car. From the frame, the cross member 4, everything was stock. It had, it had a fiberglass front end, a fiberglass doors, and I put Lexan windows in it. And I'm trying to think of it. I had it was a 468 in it, and I eventually blew that up because when I built the 468, it was normally for a tunnel ram motor, and basically a friend of mine talked me into running a blower. The reason he did, because at the time I had a tunnel ram 2750s on, and I was running out of Carlsbad in California because I was in the service, obviously, and I was running a Nash 5-speed. I was rolling through the gears there, having a good time. The car ran 1030s. It was consistent 1030s at 130 out there. And a buddy of mine that I grew up with, pretty much, he said, I bet you can't roll that thing through the gears with a blower on it. I said, oh, yeah, I can. So I found myself a 871 at a swap meet, brand new one out in San Diego, and I put that on there. And I decided, not because I broke a Nash before normally, that I didn't want to break it because it was a little too much money. So I ended up putting the Turbo 400 in it. Well, anyhow, I ended up running that car at the Grove, and I brought it back in '96, and I ran it at Byron just before I put it away, and it ran 9 flat with that car. That was car I ran it with an 871 on a Turbo 400, ran 9 flat, and then I parked it because I was going to go overseas. I actually went over to Japan for a year or so, and then I was out of pocket. But then when I did come back, I redid the rear end, the back half, and everything again. And then the car, I eventually, like I said, got it in the 780s. That's with that was with an 871 on it, with a 468. But like I said, it was a normally aspirated motor. Normally, I ended up breaking a wrist pin and it destroyed the motor. But it had a gazillion runs on it, so it served its life well.
So it's your buddy's fault that you got into blowers.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't my idea because I thought I could do really well with the tunnel ram, a couple carburetors and the stick shift and all that, but it really opened up a lot of things on that. And then, when I went to this other car, the 70 Chevelle Pro Mod deal, I did put the 468 in that I had out of that 71. I actually blew it up in the 70 here, this Pro Mod deal. But that got me, I ran that for a while with that, with the 871, and then I swapped motors out to I think it was a 540. I put in a brand new one, and I put a 1471 on it, and then from there, I moved it to the screw charger I have now. So I was kind of stuck on those things. They were good.
So, well, you were saying earlier that when you went to the drag races at the Grove, you told your mama you loved the noise of the car. And there you go. Now you got a blower car that makes a lot of noise. There you go.
I sure do. Yeah. Sometimes with these turbos, these turbo cars now that are out there, and the radio versus the world, and those type of cars, they're quieter, and a lot of them are quicker, but they still don't make all that compounded noise. Which is it's pretty exciting for the fans. It's fun for me too. I know it's fun for the racers. They like it themselves.
Yeah. So were your parents supportive of you when you started drag racing?
Yeah, they were. They were real helpful. We didn't have buku bucks or anything. I built everything on my own for the most part. Because of that, we had 5 kids. I had a brother and 3 sisters and stuff like that. So anything that I did when I started out, I had to do myself. Either work for it and buy it, or do it. That's how I learned how to rebuild motors, rebuild transmissions, rear ends, and things like that. And luckily, in the service, I worked on electronics, and then it moved into computers, and so I had that knowledge to help me out with the rest of the cars. I can't do any body and paint work or anything like that, but mechanical stuff I'm pretty much pretty good at. But yeah, as far as support, my mom and dad were really good, with that part of it. They let me house my car in their garage while I was overseas, and then also I parked my trailer in their driveway for several years.
So how did you meet up with Lonnie?
Well, the first hit I put on my car was up at Byron with the screw starter, and as soon as I hit the throttle on that, it snapped the spindle off the rear end and sent it sideways into the wall. And so when I got back, I stopped at 2 places in town to see if I can get an estimate on just repairing the bodywork and why I had a new rear end built for the car. And Lonnie came over to the house because the shop was relatively close because I lived in the middle of town in Huntley. And he looked at that and he said, "I want to paint this car." And he didn't say it at the time, but eventually it came out. He said that he wanted to paint that car because it was one of the ugliest looking cars you ever saw. That was when it was yellow with the maroon stripes and things like that. And I said, "Have at it," you know. I mean, to me, I don't see the outside, but he did a fantastic job on painting it. But anyhow, that's how we met. I had met him once previous to that, but it was just I was just looking for some parts one time a long time ago, and I never knew our friendship would turn into what it did. But it's been a really nice thing.
So is Lonnie a sponsor for you now?
He is. He's been. I mean, monetarily, no, but painting, yes, and help, and just generally being there, and being on the crew to help out, and just moral support. And he's a fantastic cook too. He was a chef at one time. This guy can really cook some food good. And unfortunately, I'm not the biggest eater in the world, so I don't take advantage of it as much as I should. But he's a #1 chef. He really is.
So do you have any other sponsors for the car besides Lonnie?
No, just myself and my wife. That's pretty much it. So we'll probably go do. I don't know this year if we'll go look for anybody in particular, but I think right now it's just going to be myself, and then if somebody wants to tag on there, that'd be fantastic. But there's a commitment both ways on that, and right now I don't know if I can commit to some things. So like sometimes folks want to go to World of Wheels or some of the other car shows or be at events, and I just, to be honest with you, I don't have a lot of spare time, and I don't know if I can do that. But we'll see.
Now, when you take that car out, how many crew members do you have, and who are your crew members when you take the car out?
Well, it varies. It has varied through the years. Originally, when we took it out, in my previous 71, it was my brother-in-law and my nephew, his son. We went for years after years. And mainly we went to Byron, but then when we got hooked up with the Wise guys, we ended up going up to the Grove, obviously, because that's his home track. And unfortunately, my brother-in-law lives in Belvedere, and that's a long haul, each time, especially the 2-day events. And, of course, it takes up a lot of time for everybody, either working on the car or coming to the races and such. And because of that, it had dropped out a little bit. And I had a couple other great guys that helped out through the years that kind of come and go. It kind of depends on their time frame, too. And I really recognize that, these folks have another job, another life. This is a fun time, but they can't fully commit for a year to do that. So basically, if they've worked on the car before, or if I know of them and everything, pretty much I'll let most folks help out. It depends on what the stuff is that they'd be working on. But basically what's gone through is I've gone through, probably a dozen folks, and I haven't gone through them. I mean, it just comes and goes when they can. It's just been nice that way. It hasn't been as consistent, but the consistency was, my brother-in-law and my nephew and then Lonnie, and his sons and stuff too that helped out, and then Jack Smith has helped out immensely through the years, and then the rest of the Wise guys too. If you run short on people, the Wise guys are great. They'll come over. Any one of them will help, or they'll bend over backwards to help you out, in a pinch. That's for sure.
So how did you hook up with Pete Demos and the Wise guys?
Well, I know it was around 2005. They, Broadway Bob had that big show when he had Don Garland and that dinosaur crane or whatever,
Right.
Not dinosaur, but it was a dragon and all that. They were having, I think that was that the 50th? Yeah, that was the 50th anniversary, I think, of the Grove. Well, I remember I was talking to Bruce Polos, who lives in Chevelle too, and I said, I was kind of, squeezing through information and stuff like that, and I talked to Dominic up there, Dino Dom, And I told him, I said, hey, I got this balloon car. It's a 71 Chevelle, and, it runs in the high sevens. And he said, well, yeah, you probably go talk to Pete. He probably let you run. And I was a little kind of shy on it because I didn't think it had the caliber of it, because most of the cars were running, 8 flats or better. Mine wasn't that consistent. It would run quick, but it wouldn't do it consistently. And so, anyhow, in 2006, I bought this Pro Mod Chevelle, and once I got that, then I kind of walked up to him and said, hey, I got this Chevelle here, and how can I run with you guys and everything? And then he kind of questioned me and what I had and everything. He said, yeah, you can, but you run at the end. He said, I'm not pushing out my guys for anybody. You can run at the end. I go, okay. This is what I was talking about. I learned about with Pizza. Sounds like he's a real gruff guy. He can be a little gruff, but he's got that heart of gold and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Once you prove yourself, and that's what I had to do for a whole year. I just ran along with him, and I had a blast. I had a blast just running with him because I was running the other car, and I wasn't running for anything except going out and having fun. So when we first started running with him, it actually turned out to be 2008, and the first race was down at Joliet, actually, and it was just a great time. And that's how I've been there every year since. I've even though I didn't have him race the last 2 years, I've been at the banquet, and I've been to the drivers' meeting, and then I've gone up the track several times to help out with other guys. If they need a hand or something like that. This past year I hadn't so much because I was so busy with this building. But I always kept in contact with everybody to make sure we didn't drop out.
So what's the quickest pass you've had with the Chevelle?
Well, the quickest in the 8th mile is a 397, and the quickest in the quarter was 624. They're like 234 or something. And most of the time, I run the stuff pretty safe because of trying to, not blow the bank or anything like that, or blow the motor up or something like that. So there's quite a bit left in the car. I've done quite a bit too, since I've bought it. As far as chassis work and lighting the car up quite a bit, and found out quite a bit of things that work with this combination that most people I talked to over the years didn't know anything about, and that's caused me a lot of grief. Trying to fit a square peg around hole type thing. But anyhow, there's quite a bit in there. I don't want to guess on what it would run, but I know the 8th mile record for a big block Chevy, which is what this is, at least a blonde one, is I think it was a 387 or something, because Rick Satchel tied it down in Bradenton, and I'm sure I can do that. If I do all the things that I know that are kind of goofy with it, I just don't know how hard I want to push it. I got some room to do some things with it, and that's what I'm really looking for, because I really like tweaking on this stuff. Driving is fun, but I really like analyzing it and seeing what's going on with the car and trying to fix it. And that's what the main problem I had after I put the screw charger on the darn thing. It had so much power, I couldn't get anything done consistently until I figured out what was going on with it. I couldn't get any data on it, and just before I quit running, we kind of figured out what it liked, and that's why I'm really excited about getting it back out there to actually put some of those ideas into place and see how well they're going to work.
Right. So what goes into prep to get this car ready for a weekend of drag racing, Tom?
Well, loading everything up in the trailer for one thing. I try to keep everything in the trailer if I can. As far as the car's, because I don't run it super hard, there isn't a lot of maintenance on it. When I first got this motor that's in there now, I used to pull the pan after every event and check the bearings, but the bearings were always good in it because I never ran it really hard. So really all it is I boil the oil, because the oil gets methanol in it, and what that does is it gets the methanol out of it, and I can reuse the oil just, instead of tossing it away. And then also, of course, you change the plugs, check the air and the tires. That's about it, really. I mean, there's not that much maintenance in it if you don't push it too hard. Now, if there's something wrong with it, then they have to thrash on it, obviously. And
right.
What I was doing before was, since I only had a 2-car garage and there wasn't much room in there, and my trailer's kind of long, and the driveway's kind of hard to get up, is that I would actually do most of the work at the track, but that got to be kind of a headache, because we only had a certain amount of time to do it. So that's kind of why I was working on this building, is so I could work on those type of things that needed a lot of maintenance, like if I had to go through the motor or the trans or something like that, that I could do it inside of a building, that I had some room where I wasn't tripping all over myself.
Right.
But for the most part, the car's done pretty consistent, pretty maintenance-free, except for, you get to pull the motor every once in a while, change the rods, and they last about 25 runs. They probably last longer, but I try to keep holes out from out the other side of the block, so I change those more often than some other people do. Change the slicks, sometimes I get a whole year out of the slicks. But I go through the trans usually once during the year, and then, some of the fuel system, I go through that and clean that up during the middle of the year.
All right, now, what are some of your favorite tracks to run on?
You say tracks or tracks?
Tracks.
Track. The Grove's a good track. The Grove's got a fantastic starting line. Once I changed my wheelie bar from a single to a dual, it became even better because there are some divots in there, but they've been trying to fill those things in. It's really hard, because some cars hit those things, they knock the chunks of concrete out, but the single wheelie bar would actually hit a divot or pull the car sideways, with a double has cleared that stuff up. But they got a fantastic starting line that they prep it really good. What they do, what's really nice that makes me feel better, is they spray it, from all the way from left to right. So if you get out of the groove somewhat, you're not in the marbles and you're not sliding sideways. So I think that they're a great track for that. The Joliet's a really good track. Part of it is because it's super flat, it's long, and they prep it for a big event. I don't know how it is in the regular bracket events and things like that, but when a main event comes up, it's a really good track. Bradenton's a real good one. Norwalk's a good track. Been down to Columbus, they're good. I've never been to Indy. I think Byron, of course. I don't want to be remiss and miss that because I race there so often. The only issue with Byron and the Grove, I would say, for the car being faster now, is that the shutoff is too short for me. I think I got an idea why that's happened. It's something to do with the carbon fiber brakes, but I would like to be able to turn it off on the first shutoff, but I can't. So, like in the Byron, I'll go up the hill and I'll turn around now. With the Grove, I'll go all the way down to the second turn off. I'll never try to do the first turn off because that gets a little scary. The brakes lock up too easily at that short of a distance when you're going really fast. So, but all those tracks they're really good. What's good about the Grove, though, and I think, talking to Dominic over in Cordova, they know how to prep the track for our kind of cars, especially the little bit quicker cars. Right. Because those cars, you can't put a lot of glue down, or you can't make it too sticky. The tires have to spin. You have to be able to spin the tires so the car won't go in the tire shade. And some of the tracks over glue for a normal car, which is great for them, but for a full-mod type car, that's a definite element to it. It'll just rattle everything apart. And so a great paint job like Lonnie did on my car before pretty much got destroyed by a lot of tire shade.
Now, Tom, do you prefer the quarter mile or 1/8 mile?
I don't know. Since the car's gotten quicker, I think the 1/8 mile a little bit more because I understand it. At the beginning of racing, or almost my whole life in racing, I always was kind of a snobbish quarter mile person. But when a car's running pretty quick, 8 miles not a bad deal, and it's not because of fear of it or breaking more parts. I don't buy that breaking more parts stuff. I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I could be wrong on it, but at least in not my experience has been. But the 1/8 mile stuff, what it does is it's a little bit quicker turnaround. Quarter mile stuff, as I said, I at least in my car, I go down to the end of the track, so sometimes you get stuck down behind people and you can't get back to do your maintenance because it seems like there's more maintenance between the rounds because they're quicker that you have to get done. But with a quarter mile run, there's just more logistics in getting the car back to the pits. With an 1/8 mile one, 1/8 mile one, you can throw one chute or you can throw both of them, but you can normally turn off at the first turn off with no problems either. So it's less time for that turnaround. So if there's less if you had more time to do all the maintenance, because I change plugs every run. They're all brand new plugs every run they do. We check the oil, we check the valve lash, and all that stuff. When there's more time for that, there's less stress in there because you don't need any more stress on top of things, because there's nothing going on, trying to get everything, rolling through the pits and getting to the start line and all that. So that's probably more of it than anything else, So as far as the excitement and stuff, I would say maybe if you're running close to a car, like you guys are, like two cars are running neck and neck, and you're right there. A quarter mile gives you more time to think about that and see that.
Right.
That's a little bit more exciting at that point. An eighth mile, it's kind of there and done.
Yeah.
And there's no way for you to say, "Oh, that guy's getting ahead of me," or "I'm getting ahead of him," or anything like that. It's just you're there, you're done.
Yeah.
Quarter mile, you can think about it.
Right. So now, where do you get all your fire safety equipment from?
Ooh, it's all over the place. I have white harness and white parachutes. He's out of Oklahoma. He used to work for Stroud. I used to have Stroud stuff, but Stroud kind of, I don't know. Stroud had a shipping policy that kind of tore me off. My wife tells me not to hold grudges and stuff like that, but when I got charged $25 for a window net to be shipped, it kind of made me mad, so I stopped buying stuff from Stroud, even though I had the window net still, which I need to get a new one now, but I had their SFI 20 Sue. I mean, they make good products and everything. It was just something I got to get over, I guess. I got some Simpson shoes and gloves. I got a tire check on it, so I got all kinds of things like that. As far as like the blower restraint, that's all Taylor stuff, and the same with my trans blanket. That's Taylor out of California.
All right, now what milestones have you reached in your drag racing career so far?
Everyone that I ever thought of. To be honest with you, I don't know. I guess in quarter mile it'd be kind of fun to go in the fives. In the eighth mile, I'd like to go to run in the low 370s if I could. I mean, for the combination I have, that would be doing quite a bit. I don't know if these things can do any more because of the limitations on the big block Chevy type stuff. That's what I'd like to do. Eventually, if I keep staying in the racing quite a bit, I'd probably jump out of the seat wise and everything, so I can focus more on everything else. Because it's a lot of logistics, getting the car to the track and making sure everything's there, and working in the tuning bit too. And then when you're driving at the same time, because if somebody else is driving and you're just tuning on it, you can focus on that instead of everything else going on. So eventually that might happen. We'll see what comes up here.
So throughout your drag racing career, how many accidents have you had or close calls?
Let's see. Well, I said I hit the wall, not too hard at Byron, but enough to break some things. I'm trying to think. I've broken various components and things like that. I blew up a transmission, a Turbo 400 at Byron one time, and the force of the explosion spread the blanket out on the trans blanket itself, and I had a steel floor, and it bent the floor and kicked my foot off the accelerator pedal. So that was kind of interesting. No other real accidents except for the one I had at the Grove a few years back, where my chutes didn't come out, and I was on the brakes a little bit hard. And because of that, it locks up the rear tires, and the car bounces, and you won't know where it's coming. When it's coming down, you don't know what direction it's pointed at, and so it makes for kind of a wild ride at that point. But that one, I went off the track over into the tree, right in the tree, and then went off the farmer field in that area there. So that's probably the worst thing I've ever been in. But luckily for me, I didn't get touched at all. It was all the safety equipment. I know it was because we have pouring seats in these things, or most guys do, and we have a head and neck restraint. We have helmet pads that are around our head. I didn't feel a darn thing, because I hit the concrete wall, part of it, and I hit the tree on the other side, and I flew, I don't know, probably 20 foot, and then dropped 10 feet into the farmer's field. I didn't feel anything at all. Nothing at all. So I would say that, with that safety gear that's mandated by most of the sanctioning bodies, it's well worth it based on that. There's a couple things in that accident that if I was a couple inches over here or there in the wrong direction, it probably would have been a lot worse. But thank the Lord that didn't happen.
Well, knock on wood, you're not going to have any more accidents, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope not, that's for sure. Yeah, try not to do that.
So now, after all these years of drag racing, Tom, what still keeps you passionate about drag racing?
Oh, geez, all of it. It's just not about going down the track. It's the thought of going racing, the thought of making something work. I guess you could call it a dream of doing this, doing what it's evolved into. But it's mainly making something work as best as I can. At least for me, that's what it feels like. So all the work that goes into it, all the prep for both your tow vehicle, your trailer, all those parts and pieces that you got to get together, long nights on working on it, all that's worth it just to get it to the track and then take it down the track itself. It's just a good feeling to be able to do that and make a good successful run. And then to win too is a fantastic feeling, that's for sure. But the win is not everything. It's nice, believe me, but it's not everything. It's just the camaraderie with everybody else. Being with people that have the same likes that you do, and the same understanding. Because it's just like anything else. But with drag racing, it's a small knit crowd. It's just fun.
Yeah, I'm sure just running with Pete Demos and the Wise Guys is exciting enough to come back to every year.
Oh, it is. It definitely is. It's fun stuff. It'd be nice if we could take it on the road and go to different places with our show and all that. But again, going on the road, it gets pretty expensive for most people because it's a lot of work to drive out and take off of work and things like that. For some of these other guys that you see that are semi-professional or professional racers. They have full-time businesses and things like that, so they can have somebody back at home keeping the business running while they're out moving around. Most of us guys don't do that. We're all working people and everything, these guys, and so that's why we stay close to home.
So are there any Wise Guys that you look forward to lining up with this year?
Yeah, probably Mr. Zamanzak, because he's got a pretty quick car now and everything, and so he's a challenging one, that's for sure. And of course, my buddy Orsolini's never can count them out at all. And I think they're going to do good things this year. They've had some minor issues plaguing them for the last couple of years, but I think they got the cat by the tail now, and they're going to be running really good. Let's see. I always like running against. I don't know if I've ever run against Gene Neesmith. I can't remember or not, but any of the blow cars are fun to do that because then you can make lots of noise and things like that. That's really always exciting to do. But just any one of them, they're all fun to run with.
Yeah, and of course, like you were saying earlier, Chuck Weck with his new blower car.
Oh yeah, that's going to be exciting to see that run.
Yeah, then who else? You got Billy Haas. Yeah, Billy Haas has blower car, and Brad Berkshire.
Oh yeah, Brad.
Yeah. So.
I don't know what Brad's doing this year for that. I should talk to him a little bit more because I think I saw his whole blower on sale on Racing Junk the other day. So I don't know what he's got up his sleeve for this year. You might want to talk to him about that.
Yeah, he was getting that car dialed in last year pretty good.
Yeah. It just takes a lot of runs, that's for sure.
Yeah. So now, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions?
I don't know if I guess I do a little bit. Being Catholic, I do sign the cross before I make a run out. It's like you see me in the pits, or not a pits, but in the staging lanes. I usually do that before I go up, and then I say a little prayer for me, obviously. I'm trying to remember, it's been so long since I did it now. I did do it the same every time I would say a prayer for me, the track crew, um, the other driver, not in that order, then for the track, and then for my car.